Thursday 22nd of October, and I'd like to tell you a few stories about work, but I've decided I can't, and even if I wanted to, they're not appropriate. So which is kind of the downfall. I can't actually openly discuss my day with anybody really. I have to censor it because of what is actually happening, which I guess is part of the problem. I don't like having to censor myself, and I shouldn't kind of have to, but that's the reality of working in the environment that I'm working in, and I guess that's what I want to change, because I'd rather have everything above board and whatnot, but that's okay. I'm still very much enjoying it and doing a great job, and the boys are all really great apart from that male toxicity that is very prevalent. And well, the other thing I kind of wanted to talk about too was I spoke to someone from home in Perth who is under the belief there's only 5,000 people that want to come back to Australia, or from England, and I can tell you right now it's 30,000. What the media report, what the government telling people is not actually what's happening on the ground. I know there was one report a couple of days ago that there's an outbreak in New Zealand, and the way it was sensationalised, they're in quarantine. They're not out in the community. And this hard border, it's an ego thing. Absolutely an ego thing now. I mean, yeah, initially it's protect everybody, but it's beyond that now. There have been 6 cases come into WA in the last 6 months from East. 6 cases, and all in quarantine. The rest of the cases are coming from Asia, and they're coming from Asia, from Singapore, because that is one of the only ways people can get home. They are also in quarantine. They're in quarantine. That's the whole point of quarantine. So I honestly, I can't see the issue. Let's put everyone in quarantine, unless you're coming from, a COVID-free country like New Zealand. But the other issues with this border is this pass to get through. You have to have a reason. I live in WA. I was born in WA. It's where I'm from, but I can't just go home, and I am so angry about that. People have been trying 15 times to get approved to get this pass. They are attaching multiple bits of paper to show where they're quarantining, what evidence they have, birth certificates, rent certificates, work certificates, all this sort of stuff. The plans for their houses where they're going to stay. It's ridiculous, and they're getting knocked back. So you've got a mum, a dad, and 3 kids all put in a separate application. The mum gets approved, the kids get approved, but the dad doesn't. What's going on there? People are getting their passes approved, and they're driving from Darwin to Kununurra, some 800 k's, and then they're getting knocked back at the Kununurra border. What is with that? They've got a pass, but hey, if you have a job mango picking up north, you can get straight across the border without quarantining. So that's no longer about saving people or protecting people. That is ego. That is political. And it's time they sorted something out. It really is. And that's what I think about that. So, and the other issue with getting home and people not being able to get home is the government caps they've put on how many people can come home, which they haven't done here in New Zealand. If you're a New Zealand citizen, you can come home, which I believe we should be doing for Australia as well. So this is why I can't just fly straight from New Zealand to Perth, because it's unviable for the airline to fly so far. So what the airlines are doing all around the world is they are selling tickets for flights, but then they don't know until the day, essentially the day, that maybe the day before, whether those government caps have been reached in each state. So once they know whether the caps have been reached or not, that's when they bump people off their flights. So people are paying mega amounts for these flights. People have been paying well over $3,000 to get from New Zealand to Australia to Perth via Singapore, because that's the only way to get directly to Perth, and that's the only way to bypass this pass that you need, because once you're in Australia they can't send you back to Singapore, but they can send you back to Sydney if you come in via Sydney, and even the people that have come in from New Zealand now that the bubble is open and they've gone down to Melbourne or they've gone across to Perth, that's been sensationalised in the media as well. But every single one of those, like 90% of those people that have come in via Sydney and then gone to Perth, they're now in quarantine because of the pass that you need at the border, so everybody gets checked, but they're in quarantine because they have a reason to be there. People aren't just flitting around the country for the fun of it. This isn't fun. People want to get home, and people can't get home because of this government caps. And even though there's 30,000 people registered with DFAT, I gave them my information right at the beginning and assumed I was on that list. I'm not on that list because I have to go onto the internet and put myself on that list. So why would I even speak to the embassy about it in the beginning to say I want to go home and I'm having trouble getting home? And there are reports that there are up to and over 100,000 people registered with airlines who want to come home. So the figures that you're seeing at home are nothing compared to what is actually out there. There is a lot of people, tens and tens of thousands of people that want to come home that can't come home because of our governance. Bloody government. I want to put that video up, but I just wanted to add a little bit more. I myself have been sold tickets by two separate airlines for flights that don't currently exist. So we've got one for Christchurch to Melbourne. Melbourne Airport is not currently open, and Christchurch Airport is currently not open. International, I'm talking. Obviously they're open domestic, but neither of them are open internationally. Auckland is the only airport currently open and has been for some months now for international travel. So it's highly likely those are going to be cancelled and I won't even get refunded. I will get a voucher. The other tickets, I paid an extra 50% to get flexible fares, which means if they don't go ahead, I can get my money back. If they do go ahead, I've paid 50% more than I should have, and at a premium anyway. So they're well in excess of 10 times what I originally paid for tickets back to Melbourne. But also, again, they're from Auckland to Melbourne, and Melbourne Airport still currently isn't open, so for international travel. So a good chance they're going to be cancelled. Now, this is just from New Zealand. People are doing this from all over the world. England and the USA and wherever else people have been stuck, and they are spending tens of thousands of dollars on tickets on the hope that things are going to open up, or the hope that they're going to make the caps this week. And the other failing I see, when we first got locked down here in New Zealand on March 26th, Natalia and Callum went down to the local Coates Ford where people free camp there, and they offered a room to anyone who was kind of stuck. And there was a German couple there who had just finished their 14-day self-isolation as required at that time, and they were waiting for a plane to come home. So they came and stayed with us for, I think, about 5 days it was at the end of the time, 5 days a week. But the German government sent planes over. They got everyone to register, and I think there was 12,000 odd Germans in New Zealand at the time, and they sent 2 planes a day for like 2 weeks. I'm not sure how long it was, but every morning and every night there was a plane from Auckland and from Christchurch taking Germans home. So every single German that wanted to get home got home right at the start. And they had to pay for them, but they were able to pay them off. But essentially they got home, they weren't stuck. And Australia have, sent planes over 7 months later to England, to people who are absolutely desperate. And well, 1,500 people got home, I think, at the end of the day. 1,500. And even if my friend's report was right, 5,000 and 1,500 don't add up. There's still 3,500 people stuck over in England alone. And I know that there is well more than 5,000 people that are stuck in England and want to come home. So I think it's a real fail for me, for the Australian government, for what they've done for us people that are stuck out here. And I guess Ruby and I are really lucky that where we landed, but it's still not an ideal situation to have all those choices taken away and be left in somewhat of hardship, you know.